I don't know if anybody noticed, right? Don't know if anyone's noticed, but things are happening with regards to energy bills. They're going to go up, not by the 70% that we were told after we were told it was going to be 50%. It's now looking like it's going to be 80% by next April. Looking like it's going to be something like £5,000. Looking at energy bills, which is crazy, like to say the least. Right? Absolutely bizarre that we're going to get up to this length. And I've got a little clip of Martin Lewis talking about what's going to be happening. So we're going to watch that. I'm going to talk about the reactions of the political class, because clearly they don't give a shit about doing anything, and talk about some actual real solutions moving forward. So let's watch this and let's go.
Money-saving expert Martin Lewis is demanding the government wake up and act today. Good morning to you, Martin. You know, I know that you feel so strongly about this because normally you have a social media break, don't you? But you've kind of chipped in to have your say on this. I don't know if you saw earlier what James Cleverly was saying to us, but you know, the government seemed to be adamant that nothing can happen until the new Prime Minister comes in, that decisions can't be made until September the 5th.
What a load
James Cleverly, I wouldn't take anything he says as read, to be honest.
bull. That's complete bull. I won't use the final word on the back of it. That is just simply not true. Let's be very plain. In May, when the government was facing political problems due to Boris Johnson, they were planning to make announcements in energy in July and August. That was brought forward in May, and the mechanism for bringing it forward in May is they asked Ofgem to publish forward guidance of what the price cap would be, and they were therefore able to crystallise what was happening, and they made the announcements of the up to £1,200 available for the poorest homes. There is absolutely nothing stopping the government doing it that now, and we have a party in government that controls the majority of the House of Commons. That's how our political system works.
Well, it's literally just like those times when you just literally are trying to put off your homework because you know that it's going to be terrible. You know you're not going to succeed. You know that whatever you submit, your teacher is going to say is absolute garbage, right? So you just continue putting it off because you know whatever you do is going to be completely substandard. So you're just try and leave the pain until later, because that's what the Tories know, that they have no response to any of this.
The fact that there is internecine warfare between two candidates to lead that party does not stop the government doing anything. Those two candidates could make an agreement of what's going to happen. So the idea that they can't do anything is wrong. They are not willing to do anything.
We have a Prime Minister. His name is Boris Johnson. It may not be the leader of the Conservative Party, but he is still Prime Minister until the end of that election. Boris Johnson can come out and do something. Like, he's the person in charge at the moment.
Not willing to work together in what we have right now is a national crisis coming on the scale of the pandemic. We are currently watching the pictures from the European hospitals of people dying in overcrowded hospitals while we allow people to still go to the sporting events. This is a similar level. You expressed on typical bills. Let's just be plain for everybody listening. Based on the current prediction, which is likely to be right within a very small margin of error, because the end of the assessment period of wholesale prices, which counts for this, it goes from February to the 18th of August, is this. For every £100 direct debit you currently pay, in October, you will be paying £181, and in January, you will be paying £215. And that's on top of the rises we had in April. That is a cataclysmic rise for households. Millions of households.
It's like more than double. What the fuck are we supposed to do? Like, at this point, after rent and bills, that's literally, like 100% of someone's income. Literally, that's every single penny that they've got is going to go on rent and bills. What are they gonna have to fucking eat their own feet? What the fuck are they supposed to do?
Will simply not be able to afford it. When we get to January, the typical bill will be £4,266 a year. Many pensioner households pay more than that because they have the heating on more, for understandable reasons. That is 45% of the full new state pension and a bigger proportion of the old state pension. We're not talking mortgages, we're not talking rent, we're talking energy bills. This is absolutely catastrophic. And for a government to sit there like zombies saying we can't do anything, well, when you run an organisation, which I have done and many other people have done, when you know there is a crisis of magnificent proportions coming, you do not say, well, we'll just have to wait until we've got a change in our leadership. You start dealing with it now. Well, also, it is awful what is coming.
It's not just as we...
They're literally sitting there asleep at the fucking wheel. There's, as he said, right, a national crisis coming, but unfortunately, they're too busy pissing around amongst themselves, trying to anti-woke each other, to trying to appeal to the absolutely fucking psychotic conservative voter base, which we will get to. We will get to the psychotic conservative voter base later on, right? But they don't have to give a shit. They don't have to give a shit about any of us, right? I mean, they're probably just kind of, at this point, consigned to losing the next election at this point, regardless. And so they're so busy trying to say, well, how much damage can do? How many people's rights can we take away? How much of the state can we dismantle before we end up getting kicked out of office at the next general election, right? It's these people are utterly, but like these people are absolutely fucking psychotic. Every Conservative MP, every Conservative Tory member, all of these people are just the absolute like dirt worst of humanity. They're like you could not pay me to spend any time near these people. Like they're just complete like they're just subhuman. They're absolutely fucking subhuman as far as I'm concerned.
Discovered in our conversation with Mr. Cleverly, who was speaking as a briefed minister on behalf of our government that's in power today, as you say, with a massive majority. It's not just that the two squabbling contenders for the leadership can't get their heads together and come up with the kind of solution that you're talking about. He made it quite clear that the convention is that when a prime minister has been defenestrated, like Boris Johnson has, but is still notionally the prime minister, he or she isn't really expected to do anything of any significance. And we put it to him, but this is an incredibly significant moment in this country's danger. Surely you can override that convention. And if the two candidates can't get their heads together, why can't the Prime Minister make some executive decisions? And we were told that it just simply wouldn't happen.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? If we had a different type of catastrophe, let's pick a volcano, because thankfully we don't have them in the UK. But if we had a volcano in the UK that was exploding right now, I would be very surprised if government said it can't call a Cobra meeting and can't get something done on the back of it because we haven't got a working government. That is an emergency.
Well, we have a current Prime Minister who continually misses Cobra meetings because he can't be fucking bothered, followed by two squabbling idiots who can't understand basic economics to try and get the country moving, not knowing that every single policy they've ever had for the last 10 years has all failed. And they just think that more of the same or the same but even worse is going to fix the issues that they fucking caused.
It's a financial emergency that risks lives. I accept the point that the Boris Johnson is running a zombie government and can't do much, but the two candidates, one of whom will be our Prime Minister, they need to get together in the national interest to tell us the bare minimum of what they will do. If they can't agree, then what we need to hear now, because the mental health damage for millions of people who are panicked about this is manifest, is we need to hear accurate plans. We have some relative detail from Rishi Sunak saying he will look at the handouts he gave in May and increase them. Well, I need to say on air to everybody now.
We can't just give people money forever. We need to have some way of fixing the actual system at its core. Otherwise, what's Rishi going to have to just continue throwing money at people, throwing state money at people, and then making inflation worse? We need to actually bring the bills down. We need to stop. I guess you could also just get rid of the fucking price cap, but they don't care. They can't intervention because socialism is because socialism is when the government does stuff. Like, that's literally, they have no fucking solutions.
Unless he's doubling them, and he needs to double them, it is not in proportion to what he did back in May. The reason it needs to be doubled, just to give everybody the numbers, is based on typical bills. We had expected when the announcement was made in May that the price cap would rise from 1,970 to 2,800. That price cap was to last from October until March. In Ofgem, in its wisdom, so that prices can come down more quickly, has now made the price cap change every 3 months. And guess what? It means prices will go up more quickly. So the average over October to March we're now expecting to face is around £3,900. That means the gap between the current price cap and the average over October to March has doubled from where it was in May. So we need to see a doubling of his amounts. If we look at Liz Truss, well, I cannot believe the only proposal will be tax cuts because many of the poorest, many state pensioners, many on universal credit don't pay tax. So it will...
But they don't care. Taxpayers are all the Conservatives care about. Literally the only people the Conservatives actually need to, as far as they are concerned, appeal to is people who do pay tax. If they culled the poor tomorrow, it's the fucking Mitchell and Webb sketch. It's literally just, how about, why don't we try killing all the poor and see if that would bring inflation down? That's their single policy, as it has been for the last 10 years, as Jack Monroe pointed out. They just cull them. That's just conservative policies. I know. The problem is, it's not even been conservative policy since time immemorial. It's basically been conservative policy for the last 40 years.
Will not help them, and they simply cannot afford this £2,000 a year or more odd year-on-year rise. And getting rid of the green levy, which is a sticking plaster on a gaping wound. The green levy is typically around 150 quid off bills. We're talking a rise of thousands of pounds on bills. So she needs to come out and give us tangible promises of what will happen now to try and assuage the mental health details. Martin. And if that doesn't happen, when I first came on the show talking about civil unrest, people raised eyebrows. The next time I came on, there were 5,000 members of the Don't Pay group on Twitter. There's now 100,000 people, and we are going to have a mix of can't pays and won't pays that is of enormous scale. This catastrophe is bubbling up, and waiting till the 5th of September when the direct debits will have already gone up is not good enough. I don't understand how a spin doctor is not saying to these candidates on the 26th of August that
Because they don't have to appeal to them, Martin. They don't. The Tory membership don't care. Literally every single poor person who can't pay their bills could die tomorrow, and they would just say that is the free market doing its job. These people do not have a single ounce of humanity inside them. Nothing at all.
the nation is going to be told their energy bills are skyrocketing to an eye-watering amount. You need to have action in place then. That's what they did back in May. They need to do that now.
Hold it, Martin. I think Charlotte...
I just wondered, we had Sir Ed Davey on the programme, Liberal Democrat leader, talking about what about if they scrap the price cap, if then the government, made up the shortfall and then went back to the energy companies and charged them a windfall.
We can't just give the energy companies more money. We can't just let them profiteer forever and use the state to bail them out because they're charging things that are higher than people can afford. That is not a fucking free market. Neither is it a socialised market. Nothing is good. That all you're doing is giving taxpayers' money to the energy companies. That's not going to fucking help. All of the fucking the executive at Centrica, all the executives at BP, at Exxon, all these places, they're just going to be fucking gallivanting off into the hills with all of the public's money. Instead of taking from us from our own pay packet, just taking out of our fucking tax money. This is not a solution.
Full tax in order to recoup that. Could something like that work? Are there any sort of answers that could get us out of this rather than just increasing the amount of handouts that people get?
Look, there are many different things that can help. Ed Davey's plan would, of course, from a consumer finance angle, help people. Rishi Sunak doubling those handouts from a consumer finance plan would help people. Liz Truss could come up with an entirely different method that would help people. I'll be honest with you, Charlotte, I've been very deliberately agnostic on the methodology that we use to help people, because as soon as I say that, people attack the specific...
The only solution is nationalisation. I'm sorry. If you disagree, you're wrong. If you disagree with me about the particular issue, then you're just wrong. Right? You look at France, they have a 4% rise because they have nationalised energy. You look over here, we are looking at an 80% rise. Like 20 times the rise in bills that France is having because we have no control. I mean, that's I say we have no control. We have a fucking price cap that Ofgem are allowed to put up. Just tell them no. You're the government. You can get rid of Ofgem tomorrow if you wanted to, as long as it passes through fucking Commons. And I'm sure you probably get agreements from some MPs, although apparently not from Labour. Apparently Labour don't give a shit about actually changing the law so it negatively affects energy companies because their singular policy, right? The singular policy that Labour Party are going to be doing is changing it so that people who pay energy advance don't have to pay more, right? So the figures that Martin Lewis is saying here, these figures are people who pay direct debits. The people who are on prepayment meters are going to be paying even more, right? So that's bad. But the issue is that we're having a catastrophic failure in the market, even on the people who are paying the lower amount. So saving people who pay up, who have prepayments, £46 a month or whatever, that's nothing. That's a fucking drop in the ocean. That's pathetic in comparison. What, 15p a day? Who gives a shit? Honestly, who cares about 15p a day when your bills have gone up 83% or whatever? There's nothing. Like, they'll go down to the same price as the direct debit people, and they'll still won't be able to pay their bills. And the worst part is, the worst part about this policy is as well, the shortfall about people not being charged the standing charge for paying on prepayment meters. They're going to pay their money back to the energy companies from the fucking government. I'm absolutely fucking speechless. We have the entire political class asleep at the wheel. The Tories are squabbling amongst themselves. Labour are too busy talking about being pragmatic and not ideological, saying, "Oh, we can't go over the red lines. There's no magic money tree." And the whole country is going to be fucking collapsing. We might have a new recession. We might have people not being able to afford food, because there might not even be the food to farm. The crops are failing. We have wildfires. Why is our political class so fucking stupid? Why are they pathetic? They're doing their literal fucking job is to stop this country from collapsing. And nobody wants to do anything about it. I'm sorry. Every single fucking liberal watching this who poo-pooed Jeremy Corbyn and says, "Oh, well, I can't vote for him." What about the foreign policy? What about all these smears about anti-Semitism? It's your fucking fault. You are the people who should have known that if we left the Tories in charge of this would have happened. He had the policies. He had all the things available. He would have people would be, every single worker in this country, work for a large company, would be getting shareholder dividend payouts from the extra shares that they would have in the companies that they work for due to the inclusive ownership fund, the energy industry would be nationalised, so we'd be able to entirely control both the development of the energy to make it more self-sufficient, and make it more energy efficient, make it more green, and we'd be able to do that, and we'd be able to control the prices that we paid at the end user. You know what we have? We have fucking none of that, and we now have 2 political candidates squabbling over how much they fucking hate trans people. It's pathetic. You're pathetic. The entire political class is pathetic. I just honestly, it boggles my fucking mind. Like, how can any of you vote Labour when you look at this shit? And apparently, they're going to announce some more plans on Monday. You've had months to announce plans. We all knew this was the issue. You're in opposition. Fucking oppose. What the fuck are we going to be doing? Honestly, I was here like, okay, I've not streamed in a while. Let's do a nice, calm stream. We'll watch some react-handed content. I'm absolutely furious at the entire political class in this country because literally none of them have anything. Right, well, okay, maybe the Greens might have some policies. They think they've called for nationalising energy companies. Okay, brilliant. Their one MP, right, their singular MP might be able to do something, right? Even if Labour just tabled a bill about, removing the increase in the cap or whatever. Something like, even pathetic like that, which we know is not going to pass the Commons. At least if it goes through and then the Tories vote it down, then you can use it to skewer them. You can use it and say, look, we tabled a bill to make your energy payments lower and the Tories told you no. Right? That would be a political policy that they could do. But they don't even care. Like, the only MPs asking for Parliament to be reconvened are the Socialist Campaign Group. Keith is out there on holiday. So are the Tories. They just don't care. They've all gone off. They don't. None of them care, right? Literally none of them care. You know why they don't care? It's because none of them have any of the same interests as you do. They're all on 82k a year or more, depending on the private speaking gigs that they're getting from Facebook or from whatever, private equity firms that they want to get a job at once they finish as an MP. They don't have anything in common with you. There's nothing that they care about that you also care about. Because whether you lived or died, they still are getting their money at the end of the day. They don't have to care about anything anymore. The only people who they're actually beholden to is the Conservative membership for the Tories and the unions for Labour, who are being they're doing such a poor job of actually appealing to the needs of them. They all think like we could see a unite disaffiliation by the end of the summer. CWU are talking about it as well. ASLEF are talking about it. What's going to happen? We have a Conservative Party who are able to function off of all of their billionaire backers donors, and a Labour Party who will literally collapse because they'll have literally no money, and then we'll have to have corporate owners. I don't even fucking know. What the fuck is this shit? Honestly, it's absolutely pathetic. Now there is one thing. There is one small thing. There's this campaign called Enough is Enough, which is a mixture of some MPs and some of the unions who, let's be real, right? The TUC have an actual video campaign out. They're putting the feelers out there. They're trying to get the message out there to people that the solution is stuff like public ownership. The solution is something like a fairer economy. And I'm quite frankly glad that there is at least one group out there that's decided that they actually want to put some kind of agitatory plan in place. And, absolutely, right? There was a segment on Novara Media where they talk about, will there be riots? Martin Lewis was talking about civil unrest, and they're damn right fucking right, it should be. Theoretically, in the video game Minecraft, why don't we just fucking burn it all down? What choice do we have at this point? If we can't afford to feed our children, then there will be civil unrest. Will it be worse than like the Mark Duggan riots? I don't even know. But that's the position that we're going to be able to get to. So anyway, they're a campaign to fight the cost of living crisis. They've been up since July 2022. They have 128,000 Twitter followers. They put out a campaign video. Let's watch this.
People are fed up with the way they're treated at work. We need to turn that mood into real organisation on behalf of the working class.
Enough is enough.
There's always another crisis, and it's always workers who pay the price. We've suffered the biggest pay squeeze.
Mick Lynch, the real leader of opposition. I love how we've had the leaders of the opposition over the past kind of 2 years have been Marcus Rashford, Jack Monroe, Mick Lynch, and Martin Lewis, right? Those are the real leaders of the opposition, whilst Keith is literally sitting there doing nothing and talking about, I would like to grow the economy. Fuck off. Honestly, I just want him to fuck off into a pit forever and just never come back, right? I don't want to see his pasty fucking alabaster face ever again, right? Honestly, just You can finish that sentence for me.
In history, and workers become all about working harder and faster for less. And now they want you to pay for it all again. Well, it's time somebody else paid the price.
Things can't go on like this. Record profits for big business, record number of billionaires, record wealth for the top 10%. But life is getting harder for everyone else.
You always make the sacrifices, yet they always reap the rewards. None of this is inevitable.
It's a political choice, your need or their greed.
So it's time everyone in this country who's got a rotten landlord, who's got a low wage, who's got in-work benefits, who's going to a food bank, who can't get a doctor's appointment, who can't get housing. It's about time we all stood up together and said, enough is enough.
True, so true. Like, I think we kind of focus as well too much, and I've been focusing too much, especially on this stream, about the issue with rising energy prices. What about 15% increases in rent? What about the fact that people aren't getting pay rises, people having to be fired and rehired, right? Like, as I said, we're going to be looking at food shortages as well. Everything is always money getting taken out and thrown into the pockets of shareholders. We're the most unequal our society has ever been, ever, and the pandemic only made it worse.
This cost of living crisis affects us all.
This is not just about rail workers or cleaners.
Like, I think you're right, Trout with Clout, that it is poor showing that a lot of the Labour left aren't getting involved with it enough like Zara Russell Tyler is. But unfortunately, like, to stick the boot in at the king, like, Jeremy Corbyn is too busy with his Peace and Justice project, which is kind of, I hate to feel like say like it's a bit of a vanity project, but it kind of is. When, you know, this is the real campaign that's getting kind of the big attention at this point. This and kind of Don't Pay, and that's the real. I think that's where Jeremy should be, and John and all of that lot should be putting their efforts in, really.
These engineers or call centre workers.
Or nurses, or teachers, or firefighters.
It's about you and every workplace and every community across this country.
It's time for a campaign that draws the line.
It's time to say
Enough is enough.
Fair pay, affordable bills, enough to eat and a decent place to live. These things are not luxuries. They're your rights.
This is a campaign to bring people together.
For a real pay rise, to slash energy bills, to end food poverty and for decent homes for all, and to finally tax the rich and big business.
If you agree, share this video, spread the word.
And sign up today at weSayEnough.co.uk.
We can't be divided. We need everybody campaigning for a better deal.
We will be organising rallies, we will be forming community groups, and we will be on picket lines.
We're going to be standing up for ourselves.
We're going to fight.
We're not all in this together, we never have been. The people that are in this together are working class people who've been mugged for far too long.
Let's be real, right? As I've said, all the landlords are getting away with huge amounts of profit. All the energy companies making billions of pounds of profit. You know why? Because they have class solidarity. They know what their class interests are, and they protect them, and they fight for them, and they lobby for them, right? If the working class don't do the same, they're always gonna fucking lose. That's the lesson about all of this.
It's time to say enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
It's time to channel anger into action.
True. I've been pretty angry so far, so that is clearly a phrase that I should probably take note of myself. But anyway, I'm glad that there is at least something out here that is actually getting the business on, because the entirety of the political class literally could not give two shits whether you lived or died. They just do not care. And someone in the chat was absolutely right, saying that they're the kind of that there's the media a lot to blame. Yeah, absolutely, the media are to blame for this as well, right? The media are absolutely to blame, and that's the reason. Why do you think places like Talk TV, all of these rich fucker propaganda outlets like the Telegraph and the Mail, why do you think they spend so much time getting people angry about like trans people? Again, it's just another moral panic to try and distract people from the real issues that matter. Like, you know, the massive crisis that's coming that neither the government nor the opposition have literally any fucking plans for, just completely asleep at the wheel, right? Like, what else? What the fuck else are we supposed to do? And absolutely, if there's going to be rallies, if there's going to be direct action, then by all means, that is definitely a good thing, which hopefully we shall see moving forward. And the best bit as well is, right, obviously one of the main things here that we've been talking about with regards to the issues with, you know, the cost of living crisis, right, is that we've focused a lot on profits of these big businesses, profits of landlords, all that kind of stuff, right? And clearly, as I said previously, I've said in multiple videos now, and I'm going to keep stressing that point, right? This cost of living crisis should be your way of radicalising people. Watch my Don't Pay UK video about how, getting people involved in these direct action who would never be part of the kind of politically motivated areas of society previously. This is how you're going to tell them, look, this is a systemic issue. This is one that won't be solved by just the government doing stuff, by giving people money or handouts, whatever, to put a plaster over the issue, right? The thing we need to happen is systemic change. And with this focus on profits, Liz Truss going, oh, I don't think that profit should be a dirty word and windfall tax all about bashing businesses. Yes. Yes, they are, Liz. I would like to bash business theoretically in the video game Minecraft. This is absolutely, definitely 100% a euphemism, I promise. I don't think profit is a dirty word, and the fact that it's become a dirty word in our society is a massive problem. So literally, people are getting radicalised in real time, right? By understanding what profits mean and what profits represent and how they affect people who work, people who pay bills, all of that stuff, right? We know what profit represents from all of the things that go into the business to the profits they extract from them, and people are coming around to understand that this just isn't right. Like, all the fucking, I'd love to stick the boot in, so people like IMT, and all of the kind of socialist groups who are sitting around doing, reading, talking about all this kind of Marxist theory or whatever. And now actually, just waiting, once these crises happen, people are going to get radicalized to our way of thinking regardless, right? Because we're right? Of course we are. Profit isn't a dirty word right now, but excessive profits are dirty words. But when you juxtapose it, right? When you juxtapose the huge record profits of these businesses against the actual functional utility of what is happening to society, you understand why these two things are completely incongruent. You understand that a desire is deliberate and they're necessary, as far as the system is concerned, they're necessary desire to make as much profit as possible. And the way in which it has the externalities, the negative effects, the actual society as a whole, you understand that. You can't just reform this system to make it better. You have to have systemic change. You have to have change from the top down, because you know what that represents, right? And and people will understand the difference between someone making some small amount of profit because of some small business they run, and huge, massive corporations who have a natural monopoly on something like this. They understand exactly what that represents in real terms, and why that's completely different. Because again, there's nothing. They've not done any more work. They've not done any more work to be able to generate all that extra profit. All that's happened is A, the price of oil's gone up, and B, they've been allowed to charge more by Ofgem, and so they're doing it. They know that you'll pay whatever they charge because the demand curve on whether or not you live or die or not, it is entirely inelastic. And that's why it has to be nationalised, because it's non-marketable. It's a natural monopoly and the demand is inelastic. It's very simple, right? And I've gone about this hundreds of thousands of times at this point, really, honestly. Of course, the energy giants, if they're an oligopoly, should be held to account. I'll make sure they were rigorously held to account in the fact that you've just put more government money into their pockets by increasing benefits so that people get to pay their extortionate bills. All you're doing is you're not holding them to account if you just give them more money, right? But the way we bandy about the word profit as if it's something that's dirty and evil, we shouldn't be doing that as the Conservatives. Well, it's almost like your ideology is bad and leads to bad outcomes. Which is, unfortunately, as we're seeing right now, the absolute God's honest truth. I'm sorry, Liz, but it's almost like conservatism is an ideology for cunts. I mean, if you want to, protect the profits of Centrica and BP against the lives of poor people, yeah, you're a fucking cunt. You're evil. The people who support you are evil. And the amount of liberal fucking centrists, right, who spend ages going, even like Ian Dunt saying, too many people are trying to say here that the Tories are evil and they are hell-bent on genociding the poor. And I'm like, how much do they have to do for you to understand, Ian? To understand what their ideology entails and what they believe? A far dirtier word is poverty, but of course, let's protect records profits first. And that's conservative ideology. Very, very simple. That's just what conservative ideology is. And there's a reason why the social democratic countries aren't having what we're having now, because it's just a better ideology. I'm sorry. If you just like, if your ideology leads to a bunch of people dying, then maybe you have the wrong one. I hate to be incredibly simple about that. Like, and good. I mean, and to be fair, like, I'm happy for them to call profit a dirty word if it allows me to spread my Marxism. And it wasn't muted. I knocked the cable out of my microphone, which was a fun decision as far as I'm concerned. That was definitely the right choice for knocking out on microphone. But like, listen, like the way in which as well the attacks against that people like Owen Jones have made against Keir Starmer, saying, well, what the fuck is he doing? Where is he? Why isn't he doing any opposition? Why the fuck is he just literally just sitting around doing nothing whilst the population are expecting some kind of opposition? All of the liberals, they've lost their fucking minds. All their tiny minds have absolutely been lost. They've been broken by Owen Jones. Again, you can watch my Owen Jones derangement syndrome video, but he literally saying Keir Starmer needs to do something, and they're like, "Well, do you want the Tories to get in?" I'm like, he is a Tory. He is a neoliberal. Labour is now a neoliberal party with neoliberal ideology. They are far more tied, actually, to neoliberalism than the Conservatives are at this point. It's crazy that the Conservatives are promising even less neoliberalism than Labour are, which is utterly fucking crazy if you think about it, for even like more than 2 seconds. You care about those less fortunate than yourself, you must be an extreme in. I mean, like, yeah, fingers crossed. And the amount of people who are just saying, "Oh, you want the energy companies nationalized?" I'm like, are you some kind of hard left extremist? Yeah, well, a hard left social democrat. That's what I am, really. I am very hard left, the mainstream ideology in the Nordic countries. Like, if that makes me hard left, then they call me fucking Joseph Stalin. I'm gonna have to stockpile food. So I get loads of tinned food and stockpile it for the winter as well. Like, luckily my house doesn't stays pretty warm, so I'm not gonna be too bad. But I dread to think what it's gonna be like for some other people. Like, yeah, I mean, they definitely move further right. I mean, especially because they have the two candidates to be in power are further right than Boris Johnson is. Like, Rishi Sunak is like a dyed-in-the-wool neoliberal, and Liz Truss is like an objectivist, taking money from the literal fucking Heritage Foundation. And that's the issue, right? And I don't think that's even them trying to follow their ideology. They've been given the room to move further right because Keith has been parroting a neoliberal agenda. He's lionized their ideology so much so that they feel like they're able to push further and further rightwards. Like Keir Starmer is the one who shifted the Overton window here, not the Conservative Party, right? Like, when we had Jeremy Corbyn in charge and there was a real functional alternative, the Conservatives were forced, like, literally at theoretical gunpoint, to actually have a policy platform that would be able to counteract the amount to which the Corbyn was actually promising proper policies that were going to help people. Like, there was some things in the Conservative manifesto you'd never have expected, like a net zero target, insulating social housing, and like a house building program, which apparently hasn't come to fruition, right? Like, under Boris Johnson, they were building more council houses than they were under any Conservative government since Thatcher. So Boris Johnson is to the left of both Sunak and Truss, 100%, like much further to the left, at least on econ policy, and he's just a terrible human being for other reasons. Whereas Keith is just going like, okay, well, I guess we're going to do continuity neoliberalism, just like Ed Miliband is. And the Tories were like, well, okay, if you're going to do it, we're just going to do it like you, but harder. Because if people are given one ideology to choose from, and one of them do it better than the others, of course they're going to choose the person who does that ideology better. Like, Rishi's he's definitely adopted fascist policy positions to try and win the leadership election, like all this shit he said about trans people and his re-education camps for people who say that Britain is bad. Like, this is scary shit. Like, how do you choose between two of these people who will let poor people die and send minorities and people with dissenting political opinions to re-education camps? Like, okay, rock meet hard place. No, we're just going to dive headfirst into fashion when Keith wins the next general election instead. Like, and the thing is, all of these people who are getting mad about Owen Jones criticising Keith's inaction at this point, like, it's strange how none of them will come on stream and debate this shit. They're happy popping off on Twitter where they don't have somebody who knows what the fuck they're talking about responding directly. Like I've had my pinned tweet on Twitter being, if you're a Keith Starmer stan, come on my stream and debate about it, because I'm fucking arguing with these people on Twitter all the time. Like, none of them will take me up on this offer. So Keith fans, if you think that he's providing a proper opposition to the shower of shit from the Conservatives, fucking bring it. Come on stream, debate me. Like, I promise you, you'll lose, and I will make you look fucking. I will humiliate you in public on stream, and there will be video evidence all over fucking YouTube and eventually Twitter as well. But if you feel so strongly that Keith is defensible, come on, let's fucking have it. And Tories as well. Fuck it. If Tories want to come on and debate about Liz and Rishi, I'll happily do that as well. They're all fucking shit. They're all terrible. They all do absolutely nothing. And again, that I guess it depends how many people actually end up watching this video. I guess I'm not exactly got a huge following, but it'd be nice for them to step up to the plate and actually have that discussion rather than just sniping on Twitter for once. But I digress. Like, it's all just completely pathetic. Look at this shit. The poorest get a 17% hit to real incomes. Like, that's almost triple the actual average, I guess that's mean value, of the rest of other households in regards to the hits they're going to get to their overall expense. This is absolute. As this person puts it, a humanitarian disaster. Right? At what point are we going to have people in the Democratic Republic of Congo holding rock concerts to aid poor British people at this point? Yeah, it's true. Like, they are just copying the US because it works. I mean, the US are copying us with trying to paint everyone on the left as being anti-Semitic, which we'll get to. We'll get to this charge later on, right? I mean, to be like, Joe Biden is way to the left of Keir Starmer at this point. Like, Joe Biden has been exemplary in being not explicitly towing a neoliberal platform. He's at least tried to push through liberal spending commitments, right? Like, not explicitly neoliberal things that are against the idea of competitive markets. But yeah, like, we're seeing the collapse of capitalism in real time, and members of the public understanding exactly what that entails. Because, as capitalists, they lose their grip on power. Their only other avenue is fascism, right? They can't. How else are they going to be able to, win the appeal of the electorate when everyone's kind of lives are crashing down around them? They can't win on economic policy anymore. They've lost the argument. The argument has been lost on the economic basis. So they're going to have to appeal to some other nebulous idea. And finding a tiny scapegoat, like, I don't know, trans people, right? There you go. Yeah, and the liberals are fine with fascism too. Like, liberals are trying to tell us, right? Liberals keep telling us, oh, well, we're the people of compromise. We're the people who compromise. Yeah, they're compromising with fucking fascism. They compromised with fascism in the 40s. They compromised with it in Chile. And they're compromising, and then they're going to compromise with it now. And when we asked them to compromise with incredibly basic social democracy in 2017 and 2019, they fucking threw up their arms and said, oh no, Corbyn, like, fuck off, right? And now you're expecting us to ally with you now that you're trying to get us to support someone who explicitly has, like, the complete opposite political ideology that we do, who's trying to usurp our party, the party that's supposed to be for democratic socialism, kicking out the people who oppose him like a fucking authoritarian dictator. You can fuck off. I'm sorry, you can fuck off. The country, and because the country's not going to get better under Keir Starmer. It just isn't. And history will show us we're on the wrong side because we'll have. I mean, yeah, we obviously will lose because liberals prefer fascism to socialism. It's as simple as that. We've just seen this every fucking time, and that's why they're absolutely losing their minds. Any critique of Sir God Starmer, and they criticize us. They criticize us for hero worship with the things we say about Jeremy Corbyn. We really all we cared about was the policy platform. Like he was a nice person. It was nice to have somebody who was running for prime minister who I actually felt wasn't a fucking psychopath. Right, the first person in a generation, right, who we genuinely felt was like a sincere political actor. But it was never about Corbyn. It was always about the policies. It was always about the platform. It was always about the hope for change, right? And now we're asking for basic policy, for basic opposition from Keith Starmer. They're now telling us, hey, thank you, Michael Walker, for subscribing. Welcome to the No Justice stream. I hope that's Michael Walker from Navarra, maybe not big, but I hope so. And now they're telling us that we need to ally with Keir Starmer, who explicitly says that we are wrong and that we're bad and that we need to excise from the party that should technically be supporting our interests. No, you can fuck off. You can go die in a hole, theoretically, in the video game Minecraft, somewhere in some country far away. These people, I have zero amount of time for them. There's no time at all, in the slightest. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Senator William. The only thing that will save us is mass civil disobedience. That's the only thing that will possibly work, because we have an entire political system, an entire political class, a kind of media class who manufacture the content of the public who just do not care. The proportion of the people. Hey, thank you for the resub, Senator William. I appreciate your support. If you can't afford it, you don't have to subscribe, honestly. But I do appreciate all of the support. It's much appreciated. But that 60% of the country support nationalising the energy companies against 13% who say no and 17% don't knows. That's a fucking supermajority. Come on. It's the obvious policy. And for Keith Starmer to tell us that he's being pragmatic, not ideological, when the pragmatic perspective is to do the nationalisation, it's fucking pathetic. It's absolutely 100% completely and utterly pathetic. I don't know how else to describe it to you. And like, how are people supposed to understand that this party case? It's not a winning proposal. Like, they're saying, oh, well, he's just trying to win the election, and anyone who criticises him, he's going to lose in the election. No, we're criticising him because he won't win the fucking election. He will not win the election on a platform of doing fucking nothing. He just won't. He will lose, and it will be his own fault. It won't be Owen Jones's fault or Ash Sarkar's fault for calling him Keith Starmer on Twitter, right? It's not going to be lefty shitposters' faults that Keir Starmer is going to lose the election based upon the fact that he's presenting nothing, because people are going to see him for being like the insincere, briefcase wanker who has no substantive policy commitments, who has no goals to make the country better, who doesn't give a shit during the worst cost of living crisis in living memory, who just goes on holiday and just does nothing and just tweets about some inane policy where they're going to pay energy companies to make everyone's bills just as bad rather than some people's ever so slightly worse than the others. They're going to look at that man and go, he does not care, because he doesn't. It's really, really fucking simple. I mean, like, he's just going to crash and burn and it's going to be his own fault. Yeah, I did watch that conversation between the Loner Box and the Starmer staff, and honestly, it's just, every single public kind of interaction that we have with Keir Starmer just essentially maintains that everything that the staff has said is just a load of bullshit. I'm sorry, it just feels like it is. People want sincere politicians. They want politicians to, grab them on an emotional level, right? Boris Johnson managed that, and Jeremy Corbyn managed that, right? People smeared them as populists, right? When obviously it was correct to smear, it was correct to call Boris Johnson a populist because, again, he didn't care about the actual functionality of his policies. All he cared about was winning. But Corbyn wanted to make a better world, right? And at least Boris Johnson, you tried to get on the level of voters and understand them from a personal perspective, and now have an entire political class who just think that none of us deserve to have an opinion. Sincere as my Mick Lynch and Eddie Dempsey popular, true, 100% true. They speak like normal people and they talk to people, just like we aren't human and we understand what the fuck they're saying. We don't need to be talked down to. We don't need to be propagandized at. We don't need to hear spin. We need to hear people telling us sincere policy proposals and sincere solutions. And we're getting none of that from anybody at the top of the political class because none of them have to care. It's pathetic. It's absolutely fucking pathetic. People are going to be watching this segment back and going, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? But sorry, but it's true. And they're too busy protecting each other's interests rather than protecting ours and protecting the interests that they have of their private mates. Like Angela Smith, an ex-MP Angela Smith, was now on the board of the private wards companies that she was saying not to nationalise when she was a fucking MP, right? They're all into there is like when Eddie Dempsey was talking about how we're not all in this together. I mean, they are all in it together. It's all of the political class, the media class, and the business class. They're all in it together with themselves. And we need to oppose them as a united front, as members of the proletariat. That's as simple as that. I said previously on a previous stream, the class war is here, and if you're not on the side of the workers, you are the enemy. I'm sorry, that's just the case. That's just how it works now. And I probably just have to end that segment there. Fuck it. If you're still watching, future YouTube viewers, please do consider liking and subscribing, and check out my Patreon and my Twitch stream in the description. And if you click the bell, it'll notify you when I go live. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next one. Won't be quite so angry.